Okay, for the reflection for the last 2 weeks, I think I want to focus more on the materials that were included versus Black Hawk for this one because I had more of an emotional response to them, specifically Finding Dawn, the film. Um, I think that was kind of hard to get through. Everything we've been learning about has been slightly difficult, but I don't know, I guess that one just hit a little harder to home. Maybe it's because I have Indigenous family and friends, as well as being a woman and knowing how hard it is to live in society as a woman to begin with, and the fears of that, and then seeing these women just get disregarded completely and not get any acknowledgement to their disappearances and the crimes committed against them is just really hard. My self-care tactics didn't really work that well for me with this material. Talking about it to other people didn't really make me feel any better like it usually does, which caught me a little off guard, but it did help to be around other women and talk about it versus my male friends, I guess. And I don't know, I think I need to take more time to figure out a self-care routine for harsh topics like this. I didn't expect to be as emotionally impacted as I was, and so we're gonna have to find a new self-care tactic. As for the materials that I want to talk about, one is Finding Dawn, which was super impactful for me personally because I've heard about missing and murdered Indigenous women. It wasn't my first time researching this topic, but hearing the voices of the family and friends of a personal, specific story was really sad. And just from start to finish, them being her and her siblings, I don't know if it was multiple of just her sister, but being taken as children and put into foster homes just for being Indigenous, their parents hadn't done anything to result in them being taken, they just were, and their experiences as a foster child impacting them into their adulthood, which shows the traumatic effects of being taken and their experiences within the foster homes, as well as it leading to her addiction as a sense, a coping mechanism for her pain. It was making her feel better, and then she went missing, and for her family to not really get closure from that was really sad. And then years later, finding her DNA on a farm where multiple, I don't remember the exact number, but a lot of DNA was recovered, and over half of it being DNA from Indigenous missing women was profound to me and really hard to see. I'm glad that their family got some sense of closure as to where she went. They didn't know, but the fact that the authorities didn't take that seriously as they should have. And I think it was her brother or somebody important in her life was saying how he was if this was a white woman, they would have been on the hunt for the person who committed the murders and everything, but because they were Indigenous and there was a stereotype that they were poor and addicts by choice and not based on circumstances was really frustrating. And that's a common theme that we've seen throughout all the material that we've had in this class, is how these Indigenous communities are neglected just because they're Indigenous. And the Trask woman material was also really interesting because I never thought about the complications of having such a heavy military influence and stance in the Hawaiian Islands would impact the state of Hawaii at such a drastic level. And I really thought one of the statistics that said that was really interesting was how the military, what's it called, system, I guess, is the highest revenue. It produces the most money for the Hawaiian economy. And I thought it was tourism, which is also really high, but both of those being something that were part of the Americanization process. And the postcard of Hawaii not matching up with the reality that Native Hawaiians are experiencing was really interesting to learn about. And then the film Stealing Hawaii was really interesting as well, because it seemed as though like settlers were friendly at first and then turned to be not so friendly as sugarcane plantations arose, and these American settlers wanted to maintain control and have a place in the politics of Hawaii, which was a independent nation state at this time. And that led to military getting involved in under the assumption that they're protecting the rights of settlers, because the Native Hawaiian government at the time was like, the only people that have rights here are if you are a Native Hawaiian. And I thought that was really interesting. I never considered that aspect. I knew Hawaii had obviously struggles with like the United States government taking over and the consequences of that. I knew about that, but I didn't think about the specific influence of military specifically, and also how that's a current threat because they have so much military like prowess in Hawaii that it's a huge target for other countries if war were to break out again, as we saw in World War II with Japan and the attack on Pearl Harbor. There was something else from the film that stood out to me, was like